Hello, everyone. How's the weather for you guys today?
Things are going good.
See, you're posting more and more pictures of your art every day.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually have about 150 paintings. I just never post them. And it's like I got a backlog of them. So I might as well just post them and have some fun with them and stuff.
Oh, you should photograph them and post them on Instagram or something.
Yeah. I just started that.
Yeah, excellent.
Just started. Yeah. A lot of
Hey,
fun.
Daz, I saw you had that future RV of that hurricane that came through Florida. Remind me next time I'll give you my address so you can get right in. You can narrow it down right to the county, make it a lot easier on me.
Yeah, we didn't get the location. I got that it was a US location. I didn't get the exact location though. Yeah, yeah, that was a bad one, wasn't it?
Where were you, David Powell? I was in Bradenton for that hurricane.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, I live in Port Charlotte, so I'm definitely in Charlotte County. My pool cage is gone. It did some significant damage for sure.
Yeah, and Sarasota and Bradenton didn't, we were in the band. We didn't get the heavy stuff because it didn't go up to Tampa. But my sister's backyard was just full of branches and trees. So I spent my vacation partly cleaning up after Ian. So
Hey, Dave or John, did you notice? I'm just curious because I've been through a natural disaster myself. Did you notice before or during it or afterwards, not just a normal stress, but like a unique feeling, something different than normal during the storm?
well, with myself, it was a new experience for me. So I was just in awe at the amount of wind and rain. But after that, the only people I saw were at the Democratic Party headquarters because I was there to vote volunteer. So they were more concerned about that than the storm, actually.
I had the winds were so strong. I mean, I had a tornado kicked up by my area, pulled a lot of trees, but the amazing thing was to see the wind gust so strong blow the bark off the trees. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is one time there was a session revolved around me, like my optimum future, and this guy had picked up on all this debris around my house, and he had like stage 4.5 or something. Like, I bet you didn't know you lived in a garbage dump. And at the time, I just ignore it, right? And I was telling my friends, like, yeah, that's pretty much it. That's what I'm living in right now.
Yeah.
Hey, Don, nice background.
Oh, hi, Daz. Hi, everybody.
Hey, Don.
Did did this just start, or am I an hour too late?
No, we're just
started.
yeah, started letting people in. We're still having people join at the moment. I'm just letting them in the background.
Okay, all right, good. Every once in a while, there's a difference between daylight savings time here and there, or something. It
Yeah,
whacks everything out.
ours will change again. I think next week. So we come off British Standard Time to British Winter Time, so it moves an hour backwards, I believe, again.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So
It's the 30th of October that we go off BST.
Not next week then, the week after.
Don,
Okay.
are you at Area 51 down in the bunker, or
Hey,
whereabouts are you?
you like that background? That is actually a 3D rendered background. There's a
Cool.
prop of a laboratory that I bought for $5, and it was just really cool. I thought, hey, I want to have that behind me this season. So I don't know. Yeah, everybody's getting into the backgrounds now, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Daz, I noticed you've got a different one.
New
too.
one. Yeah.
I change mine up every day because I'm on Zoom quite a lot, and I just get, to be honest, I just get bored of them.
Yeah.
I could take it off. I could show you, but I'm only in my loft area. Let me see if I can take it off. That just to show you. So it's just my loft here.
Yep. In fact, I recognized that loft from some of your Blackboard sessions back in the day.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a great work area up here in the loft for in the day because I get lots of nice light, which I do
So I've
like.
got a topic to add to the agenda, and I don't want to usurp anybody who's put
Excellent.
stuff in before me. So
No, the
my
more the better.
okay.
Okay, well, let me just say because I think we've got some people here that I don't recognise name wise. So this is just an open chat this evening. We don't have any guests or anything. So anything's up for discussion. You can ask any questions. Maybe try to keep it RV related as much as possible. We have a couple of things that we can discuss. So it's just a general chat. When people usually, if someone's talking and you want to ask them, you generally use the reactions button at the bottom to put your hand up, and we'll call it out. But yeah, it's just a general chat, and if you're a bit shy about actually saying anything on a microphone, you can always type something in the chat window, and one of us will pick that up for you and go for that as well. Bear with me a sec. I'm just letting even more people in there a second. Yeah, so let's just shoot away. I mean, I know Paul's got his hand up first. Let's see what Paul says first because he's got his hand up. Then, if Don's got something he wants to talk about, we can go straight to that afterwards.
Sounds good.
Okay, Paul, do you want to go for it?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Daz. How are you, sir? I had a question. In the States here, we've got this thing with Trump being in trouble for having documents that he wasn't supposed to have. And I'm just wondering, has anybody done any remote viewing or ARV or whatever to see whether he's got documents or has seen documents that are related to extraterrestrials or UFOs or something like that? Something that might be ultra sensitive and not otherwise, not supposed to get out.
I haven't myself. Has anyone else seen anything or done anything on that at all?
Paul, you were speaking specifically about documents.
Yeah, has he been high enough up the hierarchy to be told about such a thing, or would he not be, eligible to hear such a thing if it was around just to hear, or would he not be trusted to be told something like that because they think he'd talk about it and spill the beans? I'm intensely curious about that because there's this big deal about disclosure versus no disclosure when it would happen. And that would be, to me, the most likely way it would happen in the immediate future if it is going to happen.
The only data I can add to this is that I think I overheard him or someone say that he said that he was interested in doing a disclosure if he was reelected. Now, I don't know whether that means that he was collecting documents in the speculation that he would be reelected, or whether, he had a personal interest and he was going to write a book or do any of that stuff. But, that's all I can add.
Well, I can add a little bit, but not from an RV perspective. I'm in a couple of very closed Facebook groups with. I don't know if you're very up on UAP or UFO research. Quite a lot of the people that are in the background, I think Howell's in it, and James Fox just brought out a documentary this week, and all the other people that do that kind of thing, Christopher Nolan and all that kind of stuff. So if you recognize those names, you know about UAP research, and quite a lot of the discussion going on probably for the last 2 years, but mainly quite significantly over the last few months, is around the a situation or scenario called the Wilson memo. Have you read that at all, Paul? Because that's the circumstances around that will answer your question, really.
Yeah, no, I've done some ARVs. I've had the latest one I did. I had a absolutely 100% positive hit on the image, and it decoded to, yeah, he has been told. But I've done other ARVs where I got a less solid, hit. It wasn't really, just rock solid, 100% accurate, and they were no. So I can't, and ARV is only 70% accurate anyway. So
Yeah.
I haven't really done anything beyond that. But it just seems to me that if something like that's going to come out, that's the most likely way it's going to come out.
It might be possible, but if you do follow up, or if you read the the circumstances of the Wilson documents, you'll understand from that even the I think he was the deputy director of the CIA at the time, when he made inquiries into the secret or black programs into UAP research, even he was told that no, he wasn't of a high enough level for access, and that if he inquired any further, he would lose his pensions and be sacked from his job. So I think the presidents, because they come and go, I think they are probably briefed in a very small amount of data, just to let them know a small amount of what's going on. But I don't think they get access themselves to the stuff that's in these kind of secret black level type groups. But we don't know for certain on that. But that's what's indicated in the Wilson memo, if you have a look at that and all the investigation that's come out from that since. Does that answer your question for now, Paul, on that one?
Yeah, I appreciate it. I hadn't heard of the Wilson memo. I guess time will tell if he feels that he's got to use that as a get out of jail free card or something.
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with Trump. It's all to do with Admiral Wilson, who that's what the memo's named after, and the circumstances of the memo, with some people trying to find out who was involved in the secret UAP program. But there's lots of if you type that into Google or into YouTube, there's lots of videos and great conversations and investigations that are centered around that Wilson memo. In fact, it's it's causing quite a lot of warring in the UAP community, with half the people out there believing it's a real memo, and half the people believing that it's fake and disinformation. So there's a bit of a conflict going on, but there's loads out there if you want to look into that. And it goes to show, if the Admiral and the people involved, the Admiral knew about the program to a certain degree, but when he, as I said, I think he was the deputy director of the CIA, and he was told that he wasn't on the list of people that were allowed to know about the program. And I think they said something about, on the entire list, it was only 200 people that were allowed to know about the program and stuff. But it's all in the investigations, so I recommend you have a look at that, and it will give you your answer on who's on the list to know and who isn't really. Okay, Don, do you want to go with your suggestion? You said you had something you wanted to discuss?
Yeah, okay. So I was talking with some other folks a couple of days ago about something that I think a lot of the seasoned remote viewers have heard before, and that is the so-called trickster aspect of remote viewing. Okay, so I'm going to just say a couple of things, put it out there, and I don't really believe that there is a trickster aspect out there because of a couple of points, and let me just say what they are. First thing, there was a YouTube video I was watching the other day where someone described what we perceive, all of our senses, as nothing more than a user interface, and that we really don't know what's out there. Okay, all we're getting are these senses. They're coming in, they're received, and we perceive that as reality. And so when we create a remote viewing target, right? I mean, maybe I'm holding up this mouse over here and I have a preconceived idea of, what this is if I create this as a target, right? But what is it that is, entering people's minds and providing these perceptions that they write down in a remote viewing session? I sometimes believe that I'm actually dealing with another entity or another aspect of myself. And I mean, come on. We've done remote viewing sessions that go into the past, into the future. Whatever this thing is, it obviously has a different perspective of reality that is different from ours. Okay, so if we're stuck in this user interface and it's not, and it's got this perception that is wider, broader, whatever, then is there not the possibility that it doesn't know exactly what we're looking for? So it might be talking about something in very general terms and then start to expand in its periphery. And I've seen so many sessions of others, including myself, where it talks about the actual target, and then it seems to like cover the environment or whatever around this thing in a much broader sense, almost like a shotgun, if you will. You know, it's sort of blasting out all of these things that sort of go in the general direction, but you know, it's sort of like it's trying to help you. It's not necessarily trying to trick you. All right, now the second point is people might be talking about this trickster aspect, excuse me, because they're just not doing well in the remote viewing session. I mean, you know, they're maybe going off on AOLs, and you know, it's pretty easy to blame the trickster when really you're just having a problem with, you know, remote viewing in general. Okay, and so I guess I'd like to ask the people who are genuine remote viewers, and I'm sort of asking remote viewers because you've got a sense of history of what you've perceived, and where your data is coming from. The longer you've done that, you get a sense of where this data is coming from. And there's one other thing that I guess I should say is data, and that is that I feel that my subconscious is developing. It's sort of like got, I don't know, what the attention span of a child. So I've seen sessions that talk about stuff that are sort of like on target, and then it gets bored. I was given a target once of, you know, a practice target of my bathroom sink, which is described beautifully, including some writing on the back of the faucet nozzle that I didn't even know was there. I had to see it through holding a mirror. And then it lost interest, walked down the hallway into our kitchen and started talking about our Alexa unit. So, so I don't believe that's trickster. I believe that's sort of like lack of attention, or, you know, lack of focus, or, you know, it's developing. So do people who are remote viewers have any kind of sense of this trickster aspect, or, you know, contrary, that you can add to this thing? I'll end it there. Jimmy, you gotta add, you gotta say something here.
Absolutely. I agree. I asked Daz before in emails and messages or whatever. I started noticing, I believe there is. I think there's interference. I don't know what it is, how it works, but when you have it consistent, I wouldn't say consistently. I would say when you have it, I had actually an experiment the other day regarding this. I videotaped some weird stuff that happened when I was doing a session, and I stopped it. The Alexa started going crazy. To me, it's annoying interference. It's not necessarily always bad information or data. You sense, at least if you had it done a dozen times, something is around you. It's interfering. It's almost playing with you. It's an odd thing. Now, I'm not talking about any sort of demons or spirits and none of that stuff. I'm talking about doing a remote viewing session. You're in the zone. You're flowing. You're getting data, and then you're just getting weird, odd stuff. And you're like, what the hell is that about? And then to me, I had my electrical stuff started happening again, like weird stuff like that. And it becomes annoying. And you can connect it to what I call, which Daz calls, the trickster element of remote viewing. Now, it doesn't happen when I'm not remote viewing. It's usually when I'm in a session and I'm 15, 20, 30 minutes into it, I'm getting some good data, and then all of a sudden things start going amok. Or you get great data and it has nothing to do with the subject you're on. I've had that happen regarding horse racing, where I don't know anything, I'm blind to everything, and you'll get great data. You'll get the name of the trainer, you'll get this, everything. And it's like, and then the horse race goes off, and then you're like in last place. And it doesn't even, and I'm like, I don't understand how the heck can you get all this data without forcing, letting it come in, writing it down. And I have to agree with Daz. I think there is an element to something that we don't know or understand, and we just say it's playing a game with us or something. And I do believe it now. At first, I really didn't, but when you have it happen, like the other day, I videotaped for Darby. We've been doing some experiments, and I said I'm trying to do the session. I was getting data, and all of a sudden, my Alexa machine started going crazy. Not the one upstairs, the one near, I'm remote viewing. My car, electrical radio, my new truck, $40,000 truck, is acting all crazy and stuff. I get to work. Some of the swiping stuff that go in the buildings weren't working. They're all malfunctioning. And it's just like, what are you supposed to do? I just did a remote viewing session. All this weird stuff's happening again. So I don't know. Daz would know probably better than I would how to combat it. I don't know how to. To me, it's like something is playing with you. That's all I'll say.
Okay, all right. Interesting data. Thank you.
Before we go to the others, Don, I'll have my comments on this. I'm just trying to think how to put this into words, really. I think something's happening, and it's something that's come to my attention the last couple of years, and I think I wrote about it. Well, I think we discussed it a couple of times as well on here. It's more prevalent in non-remote viewing intuitive work. In the past, I've done lots of clairvoyance, channeling, and all that kind of stuff. And interaction with, I don't know, some kind of non-human entity or non-physical entity that has a more of a trickster, poltergeisty type element is more prevalent in that kind of research. I don't see it so much. I don't see it interfering in my RV sessions, other than I am convinced that there is something other than RV that doesn't allow remote viewers, if it's not in their life plan, to win obscene multi-million dollars worth of money. So I think that there is something there that stops that. But I don't know if that's the trickster or if it's something like life plan or destiny. I don't know what that is, but there's something in there. But what we're calling trickster and what you're observing in your RV sessions is almost a byproduct of what all the latest UAP people are talking about with the hitchhiker effect. Where when someone's had a paranormal effect, then there are other paranormal effects that reverberate around their home spaces, and when they go home, and then their family have these kind of effects, and then the friends of the family have it. So there's a virality to it as well, where it spreads. And the hitchhiker effect, and what we're talking about with the trickster as well, it's not a new thing. I mean, in the book by Jack Valet, it's a great book, UFOs: The Psychic Connection. He details all this, and he details quite a lot about how in the early 70s, Uri Geller and a lot of other people, when they started getting into the heavy RV and the heavy intuition, that's when they had this compounded effect of trickster type stuff. And then anyone else that observed Yori and then went home, or then went on to try their own paranormal stuff, they had trickster stuff effect happen around them as well.
So are you talking like physical phenomena?
Yeah, physical, psychological, illness stuff. It takes on a myriad of different effects. But yeah, all kinds of stuff. They would have things move, reports appear. They would have messages given to them in their mind, on tape, all kinds of weird stuff.
Wow. And Jimmy, you felt like there was physical phenomena affecting sort of electrical, I guess. Alexa affecting the Alexa units.
Yeah, I'm starting to document it more. Like I said with Darby, we were doing this experiment type thing, whatever, just kind of playing around with reviewing. And you can't make this stuff up. I mean, I wanted to do a good session, and next thing I know, my Alexa's going crazy. It's saying it's malfunctioning and just weird stuff, electrical stuff. I also, I believe it's a non-human entity of some sort. And I think when you're in a deep state of relaxation or RVing or whatever, I think that's when this occurs. It doesn't occur when I'm cutting grass or, there's something happens. And with me, I don't like talking about aliens and the UFO thing. It's just not my thing. I don't, I have something happen one time regarding Daz was just talking about psychic, UAP stuff. I did have a weird looking thing come out of the sky one time when I was driving home, and I don't know what it was. It was a round ball of light and white solid, and it went right in front of my truck and then went right into the ground. And the connection was, I was trying to make a connection, like what is it? And the connection was, we're talking about the hitchhiker effect, the trickster, that my friend about 20 minutes before that called me on the cell phone, and he claims to be abducted and stuff. He's met Dr. Greer and some other people. He has a background in the military. He has all these weird things happen to him all the time and stuff. And before I knew the name trickster, he told me, he says, dude, once I tell you some of this stuff, you're going to have some weird phenomena happen. I'm like, I don't believe that. Come on, stop that. And he says, no, it happens. And I don't know what it's called or whatever, but I do believe that there is a phenomenon that happens. And it's annoying sometimes, to be honest with you. It makes you frustrated. It makes me.
Do you feel that it has a personality? This is to all of the.
Yeah, it's trying to cause you to be frustrated or annoyed, or I wouldn't say scared, but it's you're in a flow of everything going okay and feeling fine, and then everything goes wrong, and it's like, what the hell's going on now?
Okay, so can I ask you, have you felt like it was an attempt at humor?
No, there was no attempt. At least if it was sarcastic humor.
Okay.
No, it wasn't like in a fun way or anything, joking around. I mean, I like to joke around and have fun. That's my personality. But this had nothing to do with that. It felt like a disruption, like a interference. I'm going to interference you, and I'm going to make you annoyed now. I'm going to make sure now when you start your car, nothing's going to work, and you're going to be pissed off, I didn't feel like evilness or anything, but it's definitely an interference. I'm convinced of it.
Okay. All right. That's there are other remote viewers here. David Powell.
Dimmy. I just want to add something. I think that, sorry. I just want to add something to this one. I just want to add the thing that I don't think it's only related to remote viewing. I think it's related to the way we are feeling, or the way the evolution we are in now. Like it's happened to me in a week. I just broke 2 computers. My device that I'm working with is not working anymore. So I think it's related very much with not the aura, because the aura is not having an electromagnetic type of vibes. With the surroundings about you, maybe electromagnetic something, because the devices are electromagnetic also. So I don't think it's necessarily related to remote viewing, but if you have a belief also, I think it's count. You have taken as an account for this. And also, I also think that the PK factor, which doesn't involve remote viewing, also affects the electromagnetic type of phenomena around us. So I don't know if it is something sarcastic or humorous or whatever. I think it's a physical thing. And I think it's very much in relation with the way we are feeling, with the way we are thinking, or on what we are tapping on. That's my.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, just to add to this, it seemed like in my own remote viewing, it's more like I'm dealing with somebody, or, I describe it almost as a personality. Sometimes there are bits of humor in my session. And you know, if you start picking up on this, you understand kind of like the thread of what it's trying to do a little bit better. And so it's not necessarily being a trickster. It's more like, you know, I don't know what you're doing here, but this is what you really ought to be saying, kind of a thing. So, so I'll see kind of that in the session. Um, uh, David Powell, did you want to add something? Because that you've been around for a while on
Yeah,
this.
I look, I mean, like I have nowhere, like, I mean, you know, like Don or I'm sorry, like Daz and John, I mean, you guys have done a ton of this stuff, but I have worked for a company where I do like precognitive stuff, whether it be gaming or whatever, where they're just trying to make money off of different avenues. And what I've found, particularly in horse racing, is funny, is because I will get on a row, and then all of a sudden, it's almost like a pushback. It's hard to explain, but what I will say is, what
It's
it
like you're
feels
getting
like as a remote viewer. To me, it feels like you're in a system. You could poke a couple holes, but something's coming around to close that gap. That's what it feels like to
wow,
me as a
wow,
remote viewer. I don't
wow.
know what it is. I can just tell you just what it feels like as a remote viewer. And what's funny is like with horse racing, there's been times where I said, you know what? Forget it. I'm going to do the session first. I'm just gonna do the session, then I'll go through OTB after that, scroll through the races, pick a race at random, pick a horse at random, and look at my session, and my numbers actually got better. So it makes no sense.
Wow.
Okay, so what that means, I really don't know. Like what Deanie said about it could be my relation to money or something. Like what Dad says, it could be some kind of life path thing. I really don't know. I've had sessions where it was like I was doing a lot of this for a while, and it was like I literally had like a guy stand in my way, and he's like, "No," in some sessions. So I don't know what any of that is. I have no idea what it is, but I can tell you that it doesn't feel like straight remote viewing to me. I can tell you it feels different. When I've done ARV sessions, which will be thrown in the mix very randomly, and I will stage 4.5, I feel like I'm being displaced. Like I could get a sense of being pulled in two different directions. So what does that mean? I don't know. But that's the kind of stuff that's happened to me in those situations. Sometimes I feel like you can get into the system, you can get a few things, but you got a limited time to get in there and get what you want, because it's going to shut you down. It's going to shut you down hard. But again, this is opinion. Wow. No idea. That's my
experience. I think it's important to talk about these things because really what we're discussing is like our understanding of the subconscious or whatever it is that is providing our data. We need to share this kind of information. It's sort of, I myself, in terms of physical phenomena, I hear taps on the wall. All right. I'll hear like a thud or a pound or something like this. I don't know what that's all about. All I know is it feels like an energy, a presence. I don't know. John Knowles, do you want to add something to this? David
he did,
Harker?
but I think he dropped out.
How about David?
Don, a few months back, for David Harker and a few other people, we did a remote viewing session looking at something very similar to this, or it might even be this, where the target was why, the cause why remote viewers don't win hundreds of millions on the lottery. And I did do a video of my RV, and it's on the remote view channel, where you can actually see. I tried to remote view the source on why we're not winning the millions and stuff, and it did go through some kind of weird wormhole-y stuff to this kind of universal kind of consciousness that was in place and stuff. So you might want to have a look at that, because that might give you a little bit of on what you're going through or something.
Yeah, I want to collect some information on this. This is really an interesting thing. David Harker, you want to say something here?
So that wasn't a few months ago, Daz. That was January. I still haven't written it up. I'm sorry. I had like 34 sessions in on it. I had so much stuff, and I can't deal with all the data. It's so much stuff. We had some stuff specifically about the trickster effect. in there. And I think the tasking was like, what are the main factors which prevent otherwise good remote viewers from winning the lottery? Like, assuming that your psi ability is good enough, what stops us? Because I know you can do letters and numbers. I've done it, but then something stops you, right? What is it? It's more than one thing for sure. I got one amazing session back from Josh on the trickster effect, talking about ways of like bypassing it or working around it and tricking the trickster, which we have not yet managed to operationalize. I say that much. And then I got tasked on the same thing, probably by one of the poor viewers who'd had to work my project. And I described these crabs. Like, it wasn't literally crabs, but that was a visual metaphor for a non-physical force or process or something. And it seemed like what these, we call them like the money crabs or the lottery crabs or something. But what the function of this thing is to like soak up excess desire almost, you know. You might have heard that thing about magic where you've got to detach yourself from conscious desire to achieve the result. You're gonna have detachment from results. Same with remote viewing. If you're sitting there doing your session and you're going, oh no, I'm desperate to hit the target, or I'm worried that I'm gonna miss, you'll screw it up. You've got to just do it and not care. And same with magic, right? So my best guess is the money crabs are there. They're like the mechanism which stops everything you think of just happening all the time. They're like the anti-manifestation thing. Maybe that's super tenuous. It's such a huge leap. Anyway, I got heaps of data on this. I am willing to kind of share it with people, but it's just so much. I haven't been able to do anything coherent with it because it's tons. But yeah, it's multifactorial.
So David, are you going to be like doing a summarization as this thing, as opposed to, you know, handing somebody 80 pages
that's what I it's very hard to summarize because there's different people. Like Daz went to the origin of creation itself. He shared his session on that. It was such a cool session. I have no idea what it's got to do with the lottery, but it was super cool. And then another viewer was talking about the trickster, and then there's crabs and karma, and there's just all of these different angles on the topic. It's not like they converged on one thing.
All right, so let me just ask you, do you also feel like you're dealing with some sort of personality when you're remote viewing?
I would say there's a thing. I don't know what it is. And I think sometimes we put faces on things that are not, just like I described the crabs, right? They're not really crabs. There aren't crabs control. Maybe there are, but I don't think there are crabs controlling the universe, right? But we tell stories to explain the data because we're describing ineffable, non-physical, mysterious things that don't have a shape. And we're trying to put that into English and something we can sketch that means something to us. So we have to say, oh, it's loads of crabs, but this is an analogy, you know? So I think we can experience these effects and go, oh, it's just like somebody was there screwing with my session. And was there? Or was it just like that? Like, how can we say? Maybe it's both. I've had things, non-physical consciousnesses, screw with my sessions once that I noticed before when I was remote viewing Mars, and something turned up halfway through that, and the whole rest of it just becomes fiction. That was a really interesting experience. But then with the lottery, the whole reason I did this lottery target was because I tried using ERV to get lottery numbers, and I saw the first two-digit numbers absolutely crystal clear as day. In my first session, and I was only supposed to see one of them. I made myself like 6 targets. I was going to do one every single day, so I was spacing it out. I wasn't overdoing it. 1 number per day, and then, you know, play the lottery on Saturday once I've collected all the winning numbers. So on the first day, I got 2 numbers. I'm pretty sure they were in Helvetica. They were so clear. They were 100% unambiguous and correct. And then, so the next day, I go into ERV again. I get like a hazy confirmation of one of the first numbers and then noise. The third day, just noise. So it started off great. Just like, was it you, Don, saying you can poke a hole? Or was it Jimmy? You can poke a hole and then something comes and gets you. It was like that. I got 2 correct lottery numbers and then nothing. And something stopped me, and it wasn't my lack of psi ability. I know you can do this. I've done it. It's not that difficult. Something doesn't want me to win the lottery. And maybe that's just me. maybe I don't want to win the lottery, but
Yeah,
if I win, you'll know, because I'll stop being here. I'll be on my yacht, and there'll be like the sea background. And
I've also played around with numbers just to add to your conversation there. And it seems like there are days when numbers seem pretty clear. Maybe there's an inversion there, a 6 is a 9, 9 is a 6 sort of a thing. But other days, it's really fuzzy. And I've been trying to like, okay, let's just keep track of the things that seem like they're pretty stable. I keep getting the same first digit or the same third digit on about 8 different tries. And so I don't know whether there's, how would I describe this? Some things that are going to happen versus some things that might happen. And when you're perceiving these strong things, the digit keeps coming the same. That's like the way I think of this, is that's something that's going to happen. And the others are sort of like, there's too many, like, I don't know, quarks or something interfering with, the ping pong balls as they enter into the tube when they draw the lottery number. So anyway, I guess I better back away here. I'm taking too much time.
Don, can I make a comment?
Yeah.
The Lynn Buchanan, when he was in the Army, he was a computer expert, and he was giving a computer presentation, and a colleague of his trashed his computer. And as he was giving the computer presentation, everything went haywire. And Lynn looked over and saw the guy that did it standing in the doorway laughing at him. And it pissed Lynn off. And when Lynn got pissed off, it blew every computer on both the US and the Russian side for like 1 mile in every direction, which is how he got attention by the general to end up in the Stargate program. So, I've heard discussion here that potentially this can come from yourself, this trickster effect. And I think that's a possibility. I think there's another possibility, which I'm hearing, is that this is a personality separate from yourself. In my experience, when you have a separate personality, it is possible by ERV or by other methods to mind merge with that person and get inside their head. And when you do that, then you can detect the source of what the trickster thing is. And also the other, getting inside the head of a personality like that also allows you the ability to tell whether they're lying to you, because somebody may be giving you data, but they could be lying through their teeth. And I think if you get inside their head, you have a way of sorting that out.
I don't think I've ever tried to determine whether it's lying to me. That's different. That's interesting. Okay, thanks, Paul. All right, I guess that's it for me at the moment. Daz, thank you.
That's a really good idea. I'm going to try that.
You're muted, Daz.
Sorry, Deborah, did you want to talk on this topic, or is it a different one?
You're muted.
Deborah, you're on mute.
Can you hear me? I've had so many thoughts as you've been talking now. I just hardly know what to say, but that is a really interesting question. And that was sort of related to my question about what is a spirit, a few times ago, because it seems to me that there are a lot of variables. So there are spirits and entities, and then there's the government, there's computers and normal things, and then there's the viewer themselves and where they are in their meditation growth, because I do believe that meditation increases everything, ability, accuracy. And you know what I was writing before? I was writing a question. Do you ever sense that there are times when you're more likely to be accurate. In terms of viewing the future timelines, sometimes I feel there's a lot of resistance or a kind of pressure with a feeling of wildness or confusion when I reach out with my intuition into the future. I just feel this pushback. It's a lot, you know, and there's too much almost. And so I interpret this as a moment when the future timelines are out of focus and they're not resolving, and it's a timing thing. So sometimes I'll wait until it feels more resolved. And in fact, lately, this is exactly what I've been noticing as I try to reach forward and do even approach thinking about doing a session, I get overwhelmed. There's just like so much information, I can't even hardly think about doing a session right now. I need to take a break because it's too much. But I did one, and I got a visual of a warming center. So I have an idea the timeline is going to keep being ballistic and that there's going to be some problems with energy, you know, over the winter. But that's all I wanted to do. I mean, it's overwhelming. So to me, it seems it's a lot of elements that contribute to this sense of a trickster. And sometimes I think it's a conscious, real entity, and sometimes I think it's a accident. And this is where the discernment comes in. And this is why I have developed the habit with my meditation that I would like to follow what I consider to be the spirit. I believe there's a spirit of truth, and it's a way to know if I'm accurate. And I've found that it is actually a good gauge with my experience, and I will be writing about it. I haven't written enough about it yet, but so I put that ahead of me and I follow it. I let it. So even with my RV, I wait till I feel the spirit. Okay, you should do a session, you know, time is right. And often it is, and I get some good productive work. And a lot of my sessions have had fair degree of accuracy in terms of the war, especially because it's so loud. It's really hard to miss, you know. I've had a few little things that have been kind of interesting, but the way I approach it is I have a shield right off the bat, because I was warned too by a psychic years ago, you know, you need to be careful. And my mentor too, to watch out when you're going into these dimensions. It can be, you can get yourself into trouble with some of these things, you know, and it can affect you psychologically, emotionally, and physically. So that was one of the first things I learned to do, was to place myself in this consciousness of what I believe is truth seeking. It's like a truth seeking missile, you know, and if I want to know what's going to happen, that's what's going to take me there. And you get to know it. It's like a phone line, and it's like your mother's voice. You recognize it, you know, it takes some practice. And so when I encounter trickster stuff, I have some strategies for that. I don't just, oh, it's the trickster. I'm like, no, I'm not putting up with that. I am in control here. This is my world, and I make it do what I want for the most part, which, you know, and in a lot of ways being autistic, I mean, I've succeeded in a lot of my spiritual life and these kinds of things, but other parts of my life with autism, I haven't had as much insight. But in this area, I do feel that's where most of my study and research and attention and meditation has been in my life. So I feel confident. And I have come up against things that have surprised me, that have been particularly difficult. And, you know, right now I'm dealing with, like I said, this exploding building is quite intriguing to me. So I'm following, you know, that, where that's leading. And it's led me here, which is quite amazing. So there's definitely something going on, Dawn, I think. And it's really hard to say what it is because there's so much going on. And it would be really good to start identifying that, putting it maybe in a lexicon of some kind and giving names to these things.
Yep.
Yeah, cool.
You mentioned a couple of things there. One was excuse me, a confident feeling. I think there's quite a few viewers that have kind of realized that it's better to do a session, having, these uplifted, confident feelings as opposed to feeling, oh, I'm gonna do lousy. I think that does make a difference. And
Yeah, the information's there. It's there. Why don't you just go get it? Don't beat yourself up. Right?
oh, and the one other thing I have to add, David Harker, when you were talking about those crabs, I don't know why, but it made me think that of some cartoon I saw where they were like these crab-like creatures pulling stuff out of drawers. It was like an army of things pulling stuff out of your mind or memory, or dealing with memory or something like that. And it made me think that, hey, we don't know what we are living in. Honestly, our senses are so limited.
Find it. Yeah.
We could be plankton in some sort of other in some other dimension in which there are crab beings that are harvesting us, or our mental capabilities or something like that. I mean, we don't know. So I just had to throw this out there because it's just,
or there's at least one universe where that's going on, at least, right? Because there's infinite universes. So
yeah,
for sure, there's a universe where there are crabs that are invading your mind, whether for bad or good. And, I would see that as a kind of spiritual species. I'm learning more about these species, like octopus aliens. That I love that. Love it.
There's
love octopus.
There's it seems, well, let's say intuitive to me that there's more going on around us than we know. I have no idea what sort of creatures are sort of in the same space as us, but in a different, I don't know, out of phase, or I don't know how you talk about this stuff. But
it's like the three-dimensional element in the elephant in the two-dimensional room, and the scientists trying to figure out what it is as it passes through. And so I believe that you could probably see projections or pieces of higher dimensional creatures, but you wouldn't see the whole thing, or you would see influences of it in our four-dimensional perspective, the way it can act.
So the thing that I'm basically asking everybody here is, is there a way we can create a remote viewing experiment that tries to discover? Daz is shaking his head no already.
Okay. Well, it's bigger than remote viewing. This has been around for hundreds of years in classical psychic work. You're just looking at it in the microcosm of us being in remote viewing here. Read some of the some of the magic books, some of the esoteric books, some of the channeling books. This kind of trickster, kind of weird, kind of non-human entity interference thing's been around for, as I said, eons, since the dawn of man playing around with this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And in witchcraft, they use ideograms. I've discovered ideograms are part of the higher levels of witchcraft that involve meditation and serious stuff, really.
Is an ideogram the same thing as what was that terminology? A sigil?
Sigil. I'm thinking they're very similar.
They are different things, but they are interestingly related.
What is the difference?
An ideogram is spontaneously produced by you to describe something and you don't know what it is. A sigil is produced either deliberately as a magical act or it's a channeled graphic visual squiggle, but it's kind of like doing an ideogram on purpose in the magical sense. But there's also, if anybody's familiar with demonolatry and people who like to summon demons and angels and stuff, there's all these medieval grimoires that have like the Goetia is the famous one, where you can summon a demon to help you learn Spanish, and you can summon a demon to, it's I've never done it, but each of them says, oh, you must burn this incense, and here is their sigil that you put on your altar, and there are all these funny squiggles. And sometimes, you can contact these things, whatever they are, who knows, but you can contact these things, and then, you can say to them, hey, if I want to call you again, can you give me your sigil so that I can dial you up quickly.
So
And
do you have to
people
put
then
intent
record
into
these.
this sigil thing?
signature.
Do you have to draw it
Well,
and
yeah,
then?
they're two different things. The ones the demons give you, no, it's like a calling card. It's like a phone number. So it's very much like an ideogram in that respect. The magical act, yes, absolutely. It's the theory of it is that the act of creating the sigil is kind of moving your intent from your conscious mind into your subconscious mind. And you then do things like you burn them and you try completely to forget about what your conscious intent was so you can be detached from it. And all of
But I
this
also read that
stuff.
they use them to invoke certain qualities that they want to express for certain purposes. If they're doing a task, they will. And I read about one man who was meditating on a sigil, and he became entranced, and he was stuck in the trance, and he was lucky his girlfriend woke him up. So they get really deeply meditated into the sigil to evoke personality traits. Actors can do this, to get into part, I would say. I would.
Oh yeah, these are just symbols. Like you have a TRN that you do your remote viewing session from. It's a symbol. It's a psychic signpost to something else. You can create those, or you can use ones other people have created if you trust them enough. People use tarot cards for this. Scrying into tarot cards, sit in meditation and stare at the Two of Wands until you fall into the card itself and have a visionary experience. People literally do that.
I did
weird
not know
things
that.
happen.
Oh yeah, they meditate on the tarot cards, separate ones for different purposes as well. I haven't done that much myself, but I have my favorite cards for sure.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yes,
you.
David, you've had your hand up for a while there. Do you want to go with what you want to
Yeah.
share or ask?
Yeah. I'll try and be quick. Okay, first of all, I forgot to mention too, Don. I have noticed too, when it comes to any kind of target that revolves around money making, even in because those sessions could be relatively short. If you're used to being kind of a digger as a remote viewer, you're used to digging in. You want to, it's not. It doesn't, to me personally, feel like as much of a drain. So you could maybe do a couple of those. But what I've noticed too is when I have like a really nice day, and I would actually implement some of this stuff, it was literally against odds you would see anywhere. Like all of a sudden that race would shut down. That horse would scratch.
No, really.
To a degree where it is unheard of. And then you think to yourself, is all this changing just so I don't make $5 on this horse race?
Yeah,
What about this horse guy?
That is really interesting.
Or maybe you feel like
you.
you're going to do great on your RV session because the race is going to be cancelled. So it's totally okay for you to hit that. It's just a practice target now.
It could be. It could be. We don't. It's hilarious though. I mean, I've had sessions like that where it's like boom, 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 and then you'll have sessions. Well, it's like, oh, this is another anomaly you'll see. My session clearly indicates a princess and a fruit, and 3 of the horses will be Princess Peach, Princess Grape, Princess Cherry. I mean, like stuff like that will happen. Look, Dad's laughing because I know he's seen stuff like this. All right. So another thing too is I've noticed too when I've done projects where I will get peppered in with these BS targets, and then they'll hit me with the real target of what they want to know, right? So being kind of a digger, like I will take a big swing. I really don't care what the target is, kind of viewer that I am. I want to dig in. So what'll happen is they'll give me like a bridge or something. So I remote view the bridge. Then the next target that was coming up was like a castle. I remote view the castle. Then I will remote view whatever the big question was at the next target. So what's funny is like, it's almost like a hot iron. Like if you're going in there to dig, you'll keep hitting every layer. And this is just me. Maybe this could be, I've adjusted since then because it pisses off the tasker who's setting all this up for you. And it's like they're trying to set up a project and you're burning through all their targets. But what I'm saying is just when you involve that aspect for whatever reason, in my experience, things get really strange. Another thing too is what I do like as far as if you're trying to attempt this, in my experience, which is relatively small in this area, but I like vectoring in that, okay, let's say we want to know who wins this boxing match. All right, let's do a session on the event itself. Now let's do a session on the coach of the winner. Now let's do a session on who might be the advertisement of that event. And it's like sticking a prod into that one event, skewering it, vectoring it into time space as much as you can. And as it approaches you, as it comes down the timeline, it kind of forces it into a reality. Now, I don't know if but that's my current favorite way to do things like that. That's all I wanted to say.
That's pretty interesting. And by the way, completely off topic, but I have to say, you actually gave me a wonderful comment at one point. You simply said in one of your Facebook comments that you need to enjoy your session. That meant a lot to me. When I thought about it, instead of approaching my remote viewing as kind of like, oh no, instead thinking like, oh boy, I need to really, sink my teeth into this. What am I getting here? Let's get after it. That was a powerful statement, and I just thought I'd mention it for the others who are here.
Thanks, Don.
You're muted, Des.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, I keep missing the button. My mice is playing up. Does anyone else have any questions they want to ask with their hands up here? Or anything they want to talk about? Or should we go to some of the comments? One of the comments was from Dan, I think. I think we covered this already because he asked, is it possible to remote view letters and numbers? Because he's heard some people say yes and some people say no. But I think we covered that in the general discussion earlier because David was talking about how he's remote viewed numbers. Yeah, I've had some success with numbers up until the point where I was getting close to getting all the numbers in the lottery, and then the trickster joined in on that one. So it is possible, but for a lot of people it is slightly harder because they are more abstract and they don't have physicalities. So when you're trying to describe targets using colors, tastes, and all that kind of stuff, it's very hard to describe a number one in that context.
The problem is time. I mean, like, I think all of us have explored numbers a little bit. You've got some success, and then you just run out of time and you're going off doing some other stuff. I mean, that's where I'm at. Yeah.
There's not enough time to do everything out there. Time is your biggest kind of hurdle and asset really, in all of remote viewing. But I think we'd all agree that numbers and letters are possible. I mean, I did a target for one of the main military remote viewer guys once, one of their training targets, and that ended up being a I can't say what it is because it's probably in their target pool. It ended up being some kind of military intelligence facility. And when I did that, although I can't confirm this, but when I did that target, I had all these. I did name the facility and everything, but I also pulled up all these because I knew but I was so far into the remote viewing session at that point, I knew what it was. I did pull all these code words and write down a huge long list of code words which I felt were project code words. The four made of 2 words with 4 digits in each one and stuff. So I although I didn't get feedback on those, the rest of the session was definitely on. So I'm pretty convinced that they probably would have been as well. So I'm absolutely convinced we can get letters and numbers. It's just I think a lot of us get despondent when doing the numbers. You do it a few times, the trickster jumps in, and then you end up moving on to other things.
I'm really curious, Des and the other viewers here, have you been getting words that you don't know in your sessions?
Always.
More frequently. It's like I got a phrase in Polish in my last session, and I actually had to look it up, and I was able to figure out what it was saying, but like, what is going on? Is there like more, I don't know, what are they, solar coronas or something that are, giving us more energy, or what's going on?
Because we don't know how remote viewing works still, it's probably a scale of all different types of things and all different things happening all the time. It could be where we are in the universe. It could be magnetic, geomagnetic, could be solar, LST, could be just you feeling stressful or non-stressful. it's probably a combination of all of those, and that's why it's hard for us to pin any of this down. And because no one's spending 20 million doing a project writing up the results anymore.
I wrote Yak Shamash in my session. Okay, what does what does it even mean? All right, it's what you.
That is, I think that's Macedonian, or what is that? That means like hello or something.
It means hello. Yeah.
As popularized by Sacha Baron Cohen.
Yeah, come on.
Yag Shamash.
I wonder if
Oh,
he's the
poor
trickster.
Timmy. Timmy's about to die.
Don, you're talking to the trickster.
Maybe. I can't wait to get the feedback on that one.
Oh man.
Excellent stuff, guys, so far. So any other subjects anyone want to talk about? I mean, I have stuff that was posted on Facebook, and it was posted mainly by Anita, and she's not here tonight, so I don't know if we need to go through it really, because she was asking things like, how do you task targets to get people to get more accurate data? And then some other people were talking about what about retro task targets, do we want to talk about anything like that, or even
Real
ethics?
quick question, Daz. Daz, have you ever done any tests around Lou Elizondo?
Did you? Sorry, you cut out a little bit there. Did you say any RV around Lou Elizondo? I haven't. No, I haven't done anything on him or for him yet. Myself and several of the people in this group have done some work for. Well, I can say it's for Tom DeLonge, who's a close confidant of Elizondo. We did a project for him recently, looking at well, it was blind to the guy. I knew what it was, but it was blind to the guys. And I think two or three of the viewers are actually in the chat here. They worked it, and it was a personal UAP event of Tom's that they looked at, and that was interesting data, and they got really good data on that. Which Tom, well, he hasn't fully confirmed with us, but he did send a feedback video saying thanks, and he was astounded by the accuracy of the information. But that's the closest I've got.
Wasn't it? He was doing C5 in the desert, according to
the
book that Dimmy found.
Who was?
All sorts of weird things.
Who was?
happened.
Tom was or Lou?
Tom DeLonge. Yeah.
Am I confusing him with? Is he one of the originators of remote viewing, or was that someone else?
No, he was in the band Blink 182, and he's one of the major people behind the recent 5-year disclosure that's happened with UAPs. So he helped. He was a big help in getting the tic-tac and the other videos released in the New York Times and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and he's been working behind the scenes with who David mentioned, Luis Elizondo and Jim Semivan, loads of others. How put off as part of the team as well. And they've all been involved in this program called TTS. I can't remember what that's to the stars. I think it is. And I think they raised something like 20 million or 200 million or something to help disseminate all these projects and all this kind of stuff. It's so it's been ongoing. Lots of UAP stuff, and there's more to come. I do speak to Tom occasionally. I'm not a friend of him or anything like that. I'm not like name plugging or anything, but he does like to see the RV sessions on UAP type stuff, which he then sends out up the chain kind of to other people as well. And that's why I tasked some of the guys in this group to do the RV session for him. So I've done two now for Tom. We did that one. And we did another previous project, which he actually paid for with remote viewers as well, to look at a different kind of predictive future UAP event, and he was very pleased with that one as well. And again, that one he said, "Well, I know, I saw the reading list of that, so I know that all the people involved in TTS, including Luis and How and everyone, they all saw that RV stuff as well." Okay then, so what do we want to talk about? We got roughly another hour if you guys want to chat on any more.
I have a question for you, Daz. I'm just curious. I've noticed since I've gotten a little more involved in remote viewing, having the trickster show up more and more at my door, so to speak, complaining about him. I started noticing I'm led in a certain direction now. Now, I don't know if it's just who I am as a person. I'm curious about a lot of things, so I'm kind of looking into more things. I'm really interested now in listening to Tom Campbell, the physicist, and some other people talk about the simulation theory, what we're living in and stuff. And I have to be honest with you. Now, I consider myself a very grounded, evidence-based remote viewer. You know, I'm not into fantasy stuff or whatever. I want evidence, and I'm drawn to this. Like, I'm really like, it's just like playing the right notes on a guitar. You just know it's there, and you practice the guitar or whatever, and you play the right notes in a song, whatever. And I have to be honest, I was just talking recently to David Powell about this. And I noticed the more you dig down the hole about some of these topics, you're kind of drawn to, the trickster can show up again. Like, like I was sending David some pictures on my phone the other night, and my phone crashed. It's brand new. I couldn't send him the videos. I couldn't send him anything. And it was the same feeling of interference, deception. You're not going to go through with this type of thing. And I'm like, it gets me frustrated, of course. But the simulation theory, I got to be honest, I think there's something to it. I mean, what's your gut feeling and take on that? That's my question. And anybody else too?
I'm just curious, before Des responds, what is this simulation theory that you're talking about?
It's that we're living in a simulation, sort of like, I guess, the Matrix type movie or whatever. We're just players. We're just part of something that we don't understand. And the trickster element would interfere with the game, like, so to speak. We're like gamers in a game. We're like the players in the game. And that, I think it's possible because of the physics behind it. But I also think that remote viewing can hack it. You can actually, get a hack to do better. If you remote view, you can get up a little higher in the game, like, or something. I know it doesn't make sense, but when you hear Tom Campbell and other physicists talk about reality and consciousness and the human body and all that stuff, how it works all together, you start to wonder, like, because nobody knows what the purpose of anything really is. Yeah, let's be honest. I mean, and then when you add in certain things like elements of the trickster or just that type of thing, and then when you have really good events or good things happen in your life, it's like, how did I do that? Like, why? Like, when I started painting and stuff, I have no art background at all or anything. And I started noticing, since remote viewing, my game has stepped up in other things. My guitar playing's gotten better. Everything's gotten better. It's like I'm at a different level now. And I can't explain it. You know what I'm saying? And when I listen to Tom Campbell and other guys talk about we're living in a virtual reality or a simulation, in that this would fit in that model of, hacking like a computer game. Remote viewing would be like a hack to get better at stuff. In this, I think it's possible. I was just wondering what other remote viewers or other people thought of it. Because I think it fits into this phenomena of other things too, of paranormal stuff, whatever. I think we're electric beings, really. We got a heart, it's electrical, and we interface with electrical things all day long, computers, phones, and we're all living with it and together and stuff. And I just think I'm drawn to it. You know what I'm saying? Just for some reason, I don't know. It seems to make sense. Like I said earlier, it's like hitting the right notes on the guitar. You just know that, hey, it sounds right. And that's the way I look at it. Is, I don't know the science behind it, the physics formulas and stuff, but I don't know. I think there's something to it, and I'm drawn to it. So, and with all my experience, it's just my near-death experience. When I'm drawn to something, it's usually either somewhat correct or it's in the ballpark, and I'll just leave it there. I'm not claiming anything. If I could, I'd get rid of the trickster and hit the lotto. So, that's my.
Let me say, real quick, Jimmy. I just want to say I was involved in a project where they were trying to figure out is if other viewers could perceive other viewers in the same space.
Oh, interesting.
During the session. And not only was it successful, we all, I think everybody perceived each other, what was weird is everybody from the perception of the viewers had these like helmets on or something. I don't know.
Wow.
There you go.
Jimmy, can I make a comment? The very fact that we can go anywhere in space and anywhere in time, to me, says that time and space are not real. And in addition, there isn't even a single space and there isn't even a single time. I've personally experienced alternate timelines. There's a website that that documents about 2,000 cases of timelines that have shifted. I can post it on the chat if you're interested.
What do you mean? What does that mean, Paul?
Well, I don't know. I just think the timelines are not, there's not a single timeline, either past, present, or future. And they jump from, I've jumped, well, I'll give you an example. There was a medical, I'm a doctor. There's a medical article that I used to quote from the New England Journal of Medicine from January 23rd, 1992. And I quoted, it was a very, very deep, significant article. If you go into the New England Journal archives today, that article does not exist. You know, it just, something has changed. And I can recall in the 70s watching Star Trek when it first came out. The very first, you know, there was a bunch of us that would sit together and watch it once a week in 74 and 75. Well, if you go into Wikipedia now, it happened in 66. It's like an 8-year difference. There's just no way you can have a bad memory to that. Then I go to each of the people we used to sit together in the living room and watch the TV program. They can't remember any of that. They say, no, it happened in 66. So clearly there are 2,000 documented cases in this website, and I could probably add another 50. Time is not real. Time is not constant. Space is not real. Space is not constant.
Paul, if you can put in the chat a link, I'd be interested in reading a little bit of that.
Yeah, give me a minute to find it here.
Jimmy, to answer your question, though, I don't know where I feel on this. I think there's something bigger is happening. That we're not in total control. And, you know, time and space doesn't exist, so there's something weird happening there as well. I don't know if it's a... I don't think I'm not sure if I could class it as living in a simulation, though. But I guess if there are higher beings, and it feels like there might be higher beings that are in some way manipulating or playing with us, then that, I guess that is some kind of game-like simulation in a way. So, you know, call these beings what you want: spiritual beings, gods, demons, angels. It's a complex one. I guess we are living in some kind of I don't like simulation. Simulation's probably the wrong word. I think when we're living in some kind of environment that we're not in control of, and there's an outside force to it to some degree. I don't know if that's the same thing. Did the link go in the chat? Not yet. So let's move on because I think Deborah's had her hand up for a while.
I wanted to talk about the simulation because I don't know if you've heard of Daniel Dennett. He's a brain consciousness specialist. And he wrote a very interesting book called Consciousness Explained. See, this is the book that an autism person goes for. You don't read about psychology. You want consciousness explained, all in one book. So it's a very good book, though. And he goes through, and it starts out with the concept of the brain in a vat. Have you heard of the concept of the brain in the vat?
Oh.
Well, what the scientists would want to do would be to make that brain believe that it's in the world. And it would have to create a simulation and hook up to the brain, provided inputs for the world. So the brain would smell things and it would feel things and it would walk through forests. And he said, you know, the problem with this is the computing needs for the simulation exponentially explode. What possibly could be doing this simulation? It would have to be bigger than the thing itself. So if it's a simulation, it would be some kind of self-simulation. And that's why I like string theory, because string theory is an 11-dimensional projection. So there's an 11-dimensional manifold, the whole. We don't know what shape it is, and that's the problem. That is the problem in string theory. What is the shape of the manifold? Because it projects through 10 dimensions and 1 of time onto a 2-dimensional holographic surface that we see as 4 dimensions: space, time, matter, energy, plus time. Space, time, matter, energy in a 5-dimensional manifold, because the 4-dimensional universe is in a 5-dimensional manifold in Einstein's theory. So, I mean, that's it's a setup of a kind that is very kind of computer-like, really, but in a higher dimensional sense. And that's sort of, trying to combine what state-of-the-art science is saying with the simulation theory. I would say string theory is the best model for what. And then I believe that within all of that, consciousness is able to interact in some very interesting ways, in ways I don't think that we really even understand yet, but able to interact with the manifold and the projection through the vibrations. And the thing is, where did the energy come from, these vibrations? There's no explanation for that. And that needs definition, that motion. That's where I believe the spirit is involved, would be in that initial energy. And that's where everything comes out of, is that initial motion. But nobody knows, is able to say in the theory where it comes from. You just have to have it to start with. So that's the question. Where is that energy coming from? Whose energy is that? Or is it just there? And how do you explain that? And then the whole projection and the great big simulation comes off of that original concept.
Well, there was a Star Trek episode in the original Star Trek where they were gambling on, the players battling out on the field. I'll bet 10 million quatloos that Jimmy's RV session will be a success. And I'll bet 20 million quatloos on Daz or whatever. And they would battle it out on this field and then collect their rewards. I don't know, it's a very early sort of an idea of the simulation. But like Daz was saying, I do believe there's all sorts of consciousnesses involved in this place that, we're in. And they could be doing all sorts of stuff. So
if we're living in a simulation or a computer game, would reincarnation be having an extra life? Or a reboot? Would you restart kind of thing?
It'd be a reboot.
It's an interesting, it's interesting how it all might work in like a computer game like simulation interface.
Well, I think we can all agree that half this stuff regarding remote viewing, and I don't like to get into the religious end of anything, but say remote viewing, it is a phenomenon, right? I mean, look at Ingo Swann, was a natural psychic. I mean, 1 in a million type guy, him and Joe McMonagle. And they set up this whole thing so the average guy or girl can, use a methodology and stuff. Now, how did he figure that out? You know what I'm saying? Like it's just more than luck. Is he, you know what I'm saying? The whole thing a lot of this doesn't make sense to me at all. It's easier just like to read something, and then, it's been evidence of here it is there. Half the stuff in remote viewing that that we do, it doesn't make sense. Let's just be honest. Come on. I mean, where's this information coming from? We have names for it, whatever, but I mean, I think it's a hack. I think remote viewing and this stuff is just, you're hacking a
We're
level of
hackers.
reality. Hackers.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
remote viewer hackers. And then, and I think it goes on though, because I think once you start hacking, so to speak, remote viewing or doing remote viewing and hacking, it goes in the other directions too. Like, it's not just only remote viewing. Something else, because there's a hitchhiker effect. There's also something else that happens. You get better in life. You get, it changes you. It makes you more curious about things. It just changes your reality, but in a positive way. I'm not saying, I believe in little green people or something or like that. I really do believe that. And the older I've gotten, and I start to think about, like, I would never thought this way 5-6 years ago before I started remote viewing and stuff. But something's going on, and it's not just luck, and it's not coincidence. And when you start having some of these experiences and they start to become more consistent, and you start learning more about this one here because you're drawn to it, and then that makes sense then. And it's like, that's science-based. And then you go over here and it's like, holy cow, there's got to be more to this. And I think there is. I think there's, I know, Donna, you and I have had talks on the phone. Remote viewing, the methodology is important, but there's other things also that goes along with it that can help you hack the system, so to speak, like, a Faraday cage or certain setups or whatever that you really don't hear people talk about and stuff. They don't really say, oh, by the way, do this and do that, you'll get better at it. Kind of secret thing because it's giving you an advantage in the remote viewing world or whatever. But I think there's more to it. I think this is just one step of a bunch of steps. And
but you have to understand as well, Jimmy, you are only looking at a very small spectrum here, because you're talking about remote viewing. There are psychics that have been using other techniques to look at all these kind of things that we're talking about now.
Right. I think it's right. I think that's what I mean by there's other steps or directions. Like,
meditation and meditation and channeling work.
Right.
And any kind of esoteric kind of scrying and esoteric kind of study will take you in a direction that remote viewing just cannot accomplish, because remote viewing is too scientific to go down those avenues, because those other avenues do not have feedback proof.
Right.
But
I
they
think
are
what I mean
better
is,
tools for accessing the kind of thing you're talking about.
What I think I'm trying to say is that it stimulates when you remote view. You're getting data, yes, absolutely. But I think it stimulates something else that gives you another experience that you would call channeling, or that's what I meant. Like, it's hard for me sometimes because I don't have like a background like yourself who's brought up in that environment. I had to learn it later on in life, whatever, But I know what you mean, and I agree with you. I just think that remote viewing though is it's science based, so to speak. Like, you can get feedback, and it makes you feel like you're doing something with evidence and stuff. So, it gives you more confidence and stuff. I'm not against, I trained with Angela Ford, who's a psychic. She said things to me that, I really didn't comprehend, but I listened to her. And then she gave me a reading. I didn't even ask for one. And she was correct. I mean, how do I explain that? Like, I can't, it's like, it just makes you wonder and think, and it makes you want to try more. And it makes you, want you to not be so judgmental. I mean, I've changed my views on a lot of subjects in the last 4 or 5 years. And I just think it makes you grow as a person. And then, of course, remote viewing, you look at things a little bit differently then and stuff. And it's only to improve. It's not bragging or anything like that, or saying I'm better than you or anything like that. It's just that I think as remote viewers, we're all curious anyways.
Yes.
Because once you hit a few targets, right? It's like, how the heck is this work? Like, what is the magic here? I mean, what exactly how it works? And then you get this, the curveball of the trickster element, and it's like, oh, what the heck is really going on? And it's like, man, it's just amazing stuff. I mean, it really is. It makes you think of reality. What is really going on?
Can I say
Absolutely.
something? I think it's the arrogance, because I think after sometimes when we are beginners, I think you're too, and I'm too, and after sometimes we have like good results and so on, And after a while, we tend to feel that everything is feeling like much better, and we're going to have good results and hits, and then down. This is the sound of getting down, and so I think it's an arrogance and like an ego arrogance of remote viewing. That's my 2 cents idea.
From my point, I find that it's sort of like, what was I had this conversation, I think, with you, Jimmy. It was, I think we were talking about guitar playing, and I wasn't a great guitar player, and I described myself as being stuck on the slope. Whereas, a real genius guitar player is willing to go airborne. They can go jump off cliffs, and they are willing to allow their skill, confidence, or whatever to just do the right thing. And you can sort of like take that approach in any kind of artistic expression. I'm seeing it in your paintings, actually. You're jumping off the cliff and it's just happening. It's amazing.
Well, the thing about the paintings is, first of all, I'm colorblind. Okay, I fail the test every year. I'm horrible. My wife used to put the clothes on because I can't match clothing or anything. And then one day, I'm sitting on the couch with my wife, and I just kind of turned to her and say, "I'm going to start painting." And she says, "You meant like what, the walls downstairs or something?" And I said, "No, I don't know how to explain. I don't know how to explain it. It's like in a remote viewing session when the data comes in without trying. Okay, that's to me is remote viewing. You don't think, you just let the information come in and you trust it, no matter how bizarre it sounds or whatever." And I'm sitting on the couch, and she says to me, "What do you mean you're going to paint? You don't like painting?" I said, "I don't know. I got this feeling of that I'm supposed to be painting and expressing myself that way." And she says, "Okay." She had some paints or something in the end of the room. She has done like whatever, and I haven't. And then next thing I know, I like remote viewing, just like playing the guitar without thinking. You know what I'm saying? It's just expression, letting go, get rid of the ego, going for it. As Daz always says, I don't give a F about this. I'm just going to go for it. You know, that kind of attitude. And then when you do it, you notice you're in this flow zone, and it may last only 15 minutes, 10 minutes, like a good remote viewing session. And that's why I'm convinced that there's more going on around us, and we just don't maybe listen to it, or we don't want to take a chance or something. I mean, you mentioned about going off, getting better at something or whatever. I think it maybe has to do with, maybe we're just told ourselves that we're not good enough or something or
Yeah,
where
we're not willing to take a chance, but now we are.
as humans, right? And stuff.
Yeah.
And I think I learned from, I grew up in an environment where we played sports all the time, and my brother was just phenomenal, all American and everything else there. And his attitude always was, you just practice and you like it, you have fun with it, and you practice some more, and you'll get better at it. It was kind of very simple. And I kind of took that on early in my life, whatever. And I did really well in sport. I had, college basketball scholarship offers. I didn't take them though. I should have. But I'm just saying is that I'm not claiming anything. I'm just listening. I'm a good listener. So, and then I'll react like, and I'm not trying not to judge anything at all. I'm just trying to go for it, like, and see what happens. If I crash and burn, it's a bad session. If I play the wrong notes on the guitar, hey, it's only a couple of notes. If I do a terrible painting, I can always paint over it. And that's kind of my attitude. But there's something else going on. That's what baffles me. And I'm trying to figure it out. I've been tasked recently to do the pyramids. Okay. Why were they built? That type of thing. And, whatever. And I noticed it goes back to the trickster again. My first session, I got some interesting, weird data, and then after that, I couldn't get nothing. Everything was black all the time. I never had that before happen to me. Black,
Wow.
complete blackness, nothing, no info, nothing. It was like, where's the data? I'm doing everything correct. I take a week off, try it again.
You were getting no perceptions at all.
Nothing. After the first one, I saw something. You know what a ghillie suit is? The military guys use a ghillie suit. It's for like camouflaging themselves when their snipers are in the field. I saw something with a suit on, and it was smoothing the stone out and the inside of the pyramids, smoothing it. It was a protection thing so they wouldn't breathe the dust in or whatever. And then I noticed that I felt like, I'm not supposed to be looking at this. Like, it was a feeling of you're not supposed to be here looking at this target. And then it was like the lights turned off. And that was it. No more perceptions, no more nothing.
Whoa.
Wrote up a little bit of data. I got retasked on it. I'm thinking I must be the same target again because I'm getting nothing. Blackness, black box. Again, week later, try it again, nothing. And I still can't to this day. It's been probably 2 months. I can't get nothing in the information about why they were built, who built them, what was the mechanism of anything, nothing. It's baffling, and it makes me think like there's something going on. You know, it's baffling to me. And you blame it on the trickster or the crabs.
You've just give me a good segue there to do an ad for. I'm just in the process now of creating the next 8 martinis. It's got lots of articles in it for some really interesting articles. But I'm creating one myself, and it's got it's on some research on Ingo and what he did, and I've got 2 projects he did on the pyramids.
Did he get data?
He did. I've done a lot of research, and I've actually got photographs, and I've actually got Ingo's live remote viewing session where he was actually live at the pyramids, and he was at different places. Like he was on top of the pyramid, and then he was by the side of the Sphinx, then he was inside the Great Pyramid. And I've actually got the sketches and everything on that, and I'm going to put that in the magazine, as well as photographs of him in the pyramids and all kinds of other stuff.
Oh, wow.
But he also ran a separate project several years later, where he ran other remote viewers looking for things at the pyramids as well. And they, in both those sessions, his and the other viewers, they encountered lots of stuff that's not going against the official party line of what and how the pyramids were built. I'll leave it at that for now until I put it in there. But yeah, some very interesting stuff.
It's very strange. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't even get a color. I didn't get nothing. And I was like, I feel fine. There's no stress or anything. And I'm thinking, well, I'm just going to try it the next time or whatever. And I tried it like 3 times so far. And it's like, I know when I get repassed the number, as soon as I start the session, nothing happens. It's like the light turns off.
I don't know if I'm accurate on this, but I vaguely remember in the project that you had other remote viewers do, one of the remote viewers details something about seeing a non-physical life form there that's like a protector type person to stop people doing certain things. You know, I may be flowering that, but I'll have to go back through and reread it. But I do vaguely remember something like that being reported by one of the viewers in one of the sessions, looking at stuff underneath the pyramids.
The damn trickster again, or is that damn crabs?
Well, you also have to, you know, if you
crab people.
if you read the article that I did in the last 8 martinis, and you know, it was the extended stuff that Ingo did when he went back to the moon in the mid-90s. If we take any of his work at the value that, you know, we should, because of the person he is and what he did, he said the people he encountered there, you know, 2 different types of telepaths. Some of them were offensive and some of them were defensive. And we have to, no one's ever explored, and I don't think he explored, but, you know, we have to ask questions. You know, what are they defending and how are they being defensive, and what are they doing with their offensive methods as well?
Right.
So maybe something like that. Maybe they are part of this bigger picture, and there is something in play. Maybe there are telepathic or psychic beings out there that are being defensive and offensive, and, you know, maybe that interferes with what we're doing as well.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense, especially when you experience it. You know what I'm saying? When you actually experience this, and I mean, you know, it's like anything else. It's like, it can't be just a coincidence.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done enough remote viewing.
That's why these forums are great, you know, because this is the kind of stuff that isn't, you know, people don't usually talk about this kind of, and you can't really talk about this thing in a textual kind of conversation on Facebook or on Twitter or anything like that. That's why it's good that we're all getting together and we, you know, we're just discussing this and shooting the breeze on it, really.
Right. I'm just having a bit of an insight, Jimmy, about some of this, and I'm just wondering, because this can be like an attack, a personal attack too. Like somebody might be trying to block you, just another person who might maybe, I don't know, has that ever occurred to you? Like a person who might want to interfere with you in some way and interfere with your work or your happiness or your flow, or just trying to trip you up. Like, people can have strange motivations that you just never can fathom really until you deduce them, is what I've discovered. And there are people like this, who just like to mess with stuff like this. And if anyone knows that you're doing it, has that occurred to you, that it may be personal?
I don't believe that. I mean, I appreciate your comment, but I've been doing this a little too long, like for the last 5 years, and I stick to all the protocols, and I have my own, I have a Faraday cage. I have everything to try to benefit my remote viewing.
But then you're a prime target for someone like this. If you're good, that's exactly who they want to mess. I'm just saying it's a consideration that you might want to meditate, stretch out your intuition, see what you see.
Yeah.
It's a possibility. I've had this happen to me. That's what I'm saying.
Well, this is new to me. I have to be honest. It's new. I've always been able to get some fragments of data, and then they probably most times aren't 100%. But that's one thing I learned from Dr. May explaining to me. Real remote viewing is you get fragments. You're always going to get something if you can remote view on the target. Something may not be 100%, maybe 55 or 60% or whatever. But it's unusual for me to not get something and to have this feeling of,
exactly. That's why I'm saying it's unusual.
I
right?
don't see nothing.
It's unusual.
Yeah.
So then that would mean that there's something unusual going on, and it would be sort of maybe something that's not within your purview because you've prepared yourself and you've done your protocol. So what maybe it is another individual. And these days, more and more people are learning about remote viewing, and they're learning about these techniques. And I tell you, I've discovered people are playing around with it, just in regular society, and they're not saying anything to anybody else when they're doing this. Some people like to be sneaky. There's even a song, and you know it, I Want to Be Evil, right? Right? Cute song and all, but there's people like that. And that's all I'm saying is, as remote viewers, we maybe should think about some of this too, about how to protect ourselves. And that's why I mentioned the spirit, because that was one of the first things I learned about how to protect myself. I was mentored by an exorcist.
Yeah, I worked for a couple of years. I don't talk about this on any of the RV sites, but I used to do RV sessions for an exorcist group. There were 3 priests and a liaison woman, and they just wanted to know if I could pick up anything information-wise using a remote viewing protocol about, a person or a place or whatever. And 99% of the time, it was never nothing. It was just like nothing. There was nothing unusual, nothing popped in weird or anything strange. And only one time out of probably over the 2-year period, probably out of 15 cases or 14 cases that they were looking into, only one time an odd thing happened, and it was really strange, and it was very odd. I couldn't make sense of it at all. Just strange feelings and weird stuff I wrote down. It made no sense to me. And that's when I had a weird experience. I felt like the hitchhiker. Like you could explain that.
Yeah, there it was.
Okay.
It noticed
One time,
for instance.
I saw something I thought was right near me at work, and I thought it was somebody playing a joke on me, and I thought it was a person dressed up in a costume or something. I went over to see, because how I am, I'm saying, I'm going to get back at you because I like to joke around. There was nothing there. There was nobody there. Like, there was nothing. It was, I know what I saw. And
that's why I'm saying it's important to be careful getting mixed up. And one of the exorcists I've been studying recently, he's very particular, Catholic guy, about investigating first before accepting that this is an exorcism, because people will come with a lot of stuff that isn't, and he expects people to get psychological evaluation and talking to the doctor and things like that. So you have to be really specific. Again, it's the same as tasking, really. You need to know how to pray specifically for each specific case. And RV It would be very interesting.
You know what
because
the
I bet you
strange-
90% of them are nothing. That's,
Yeah,
you know,
about 99% of them, that there were just
Yeah.
nothing there. It was just people that, you know, maybe had
a
breakdown.
psychological disorder.
Yeah,
of some
there was
kind.
right. It would always be confirmed, whatever.
Could be witchcraft. I mean, do you think our view
That's
would
right.
be able to identify witchcraft? That
Yeah.
would be an interesting
Yeah,
question.
a real person that really believes that and stuff like that. Right. There was some evidence of that at times. But my thing was that what got me was the 3 priests that were all trained in that. I worked with the liaison woman. I didn't work directly with the priest, though. I just gave them the data. They all had nervous breakdowns. I thought that was really interesting. All 3 of them.
Yeah, so see, they weren't
Wow.
protecting themselves properly.
Yeah, all
They
3 of
didn't
them
really
had
know what
nervous
they were doing. Yes,
nervous
yes.
breakdowns and stopped.
Dangerous
And then
for
once
us.
that happened, I'm thinking, I want nothing to do with this no more. I'm out of here. I'm going back to playing my guitar in a band.
You need to know
That
how
was
to
it.
protect yourself. And being confident is very important, especially
Yeah,
when you
well-
come up against, if you come
Jimmy,
up against that black thing
Jimmy, what-
again, just tell it to go away and see what
Jimmy,
happens.
what was that
Like,
thing
get
that you
out of here.
saw? What was that thing that you saw?
I
You
wanna-
said,
I will say what I saw, and I actually went to the eye doctor about a week later because I've never experienced something like this before. What I
was
saw
it a shadow or, you know?
no. It was an actual, what I perceived looking, I was at work and I looked across about 10 feet away from me and I saw a woman who looked like she was like a zombie. That's all I can describe it as, a half dead looking, sickly looking woman. And it was there for about 4 seconds, 3 seconds, and it moved funny. It jerked like, you know, like in the Matrix, there's a
Yeah.
glitch light.
Yeah.
That's how it moved.
Trying
It
to scare
scared-
you.
It scared the living crap out of me. I
You-
literally
in
thought,
your direct vision or
Don't
off
be
on the
scared.
side?
you know, right in front of me about 10 feet. And I thought I'm gonna either pass out or have a heart attack because I've never seen anything like this.
See,
Okay.
this
And I'm
thing
like,
was inducing the fear in you. This wasn't even your fear. This was the fear from the thing that
Well,
wanted.
Did
it
it
wanted
just
to give
pop
it
up
to you. It was a
and
gift.
appear?
It was
Like,
giving you a
would you
gift.
describe it as a
You
jump
just say, "No,
scare?
thank you."
I don't know how, I have no reference for it because I don't see things. So I just saw, and I thought it was a
Yeah,
real
you gotta be
person.
careful with these things and know how to deal with them. And one way, especially, is confidence. You don't be scared of them. You don't let them scare you. They're nothing
Scared
to be
the crap
scared
out of
of.
me.
It's a big illusion.
Those things
Trying to
scare the
scare you
shit out of
down.
everybody the first
Yeah.
time they see them.
Honest to God. And
Interesting stuff.
I went home that night and I told my wife, I said, you know, I'm going to have to go to the doctor's. I just saw something. And she's like, what's wrong? And I said, I could have swore I saw something. It was a woman who looked like she was half dead, glitching like in the Matrix like that. And I'm like, I hope I'm not going crazy or something. And I went about a week later, got my eyes checked. I went to the doctor's and he said to me, you have nothing wrong with your eyes. You need like new lens prescription or anything, new glasses. I said, no, are you sure there's nothing wrong with my eyes? Because I consider myself a grounded, evidential person that doesn't believe in a lot of unusual things unless you can prove it. And I know what I saw, and it was strange, one time only. And I don't know what else to say other than something happened. And
Do you think it could have been like a subconscious overlay? I mean, like it literally, you know, sort of blended in with reality, but it was sort of like a mental thing.
Don, at this point, I would believe anything. In other words, anything that would make sense, I would believe it because I don't
Well, Don,
see this.
Subconscious
I don't
overlay
see
is
this
a
kind of
really
stuff.
good way to
Dawn,
look
do you
at
believe in a
entities
sense of a
stuff.
feeling of presence? Like if you
Yeah.
feel a presence, there's a difference between something you imagine, like I'm thinking of a purple cow. I don't feel a presence. But with some of these kinds of entities, you feel like that animal magnetism in the room, right? You can feel a presence sometimes. I don't know. Dawn, do you subscribe to that kind of thing? Have you ever?
I'm not. I'm an atheist. I'm actually like an atheist who doesn't really get involved in religious stuff. I consider myself a science-based remote viewer who wants evidence, and that's it. Outside of that,
If you have a person in the room, you can feel their presence if the real person is there. But this is scientific, and you can feel the presence of a person in the room. It's, you know, some parts of you maybe are sensing a heartbeat, maybe a bit of breath. Like there's some sensitivities. And then if there's a spiritual presence, and it's not a religious thing, it's just some species of entity in the room, I myself feel I can sometimes feel them present. And then there's ways that they make themselves known. They'll do things like trickster things, but it's playful. You know, some open a door, you know, I'm on my rowing machine and the door just opens, you know, and it's like, okay. One day I had a face in my kombucha. I put it on Facebook. It was just amazing. It was this man's face with like a baseball cap sitting there in my kombucha. Like, you know how the kombucha has layers, the SCOBY? Anyway, and it was there for days. And I feel these are playful things and I wonder who they are. And a friend of mine had just died. And I just wasn't acknowledging it. I was like, totally like, he's not dead. And then this face shows up and I think it was him, you know, kind of thing. And I didn't really feel a presence with that. I didn't feel a presence, but there's times when you don't see anything, but you can feel something. I don't know. These are nebulous things that need definition, in my opinion.
Jimmy,
I just consider it now as a female trickster. That's all.
Jimmy, was this before or after you started remote viewing training?
Oh, no. Everything happened with me, Daz, after I started remote viewing.
Well, that's
everything.
But that's why though, because you're it's like, you know, we discussed with the hitchhiker kind of effect kind of thing. As you expose yourself to this kind of stuff, you open yourself up to more experiences of this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I agree, and it's hard to like. How do you prove something that I know I'm not hallucinating?
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, but you've opened Pandora's box, and now you can't close it.
Right. Exactly. That's a good analogy right there. Yeah, you opened up a box, and it's like, how the heck do you close this damn thing?
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? I want to have more control of it. I certainly don't want to be seeing weird looking things. I just want to do my remote viewing, do the best I can. And, you know, I enjoy it. It's, you know, it's fun. It's exciting. You know, you do something, you know, try to do it, say everything else. And then when you have kind of these little weird things once in a while, it's like, uh-oh, what the hell's going on here?
You'll still get them, but they, you know, the more remote viewing you do and the less attention you give to them, then the more they might atrophy.
Right. It sounds like to me, if you want to admit it or not, I think you've had some experience then too, maybe possibly in this direction.
Yeah, I mean, all sorts. I mean, I'm not going to talk about it here and now, but I even worked on free exorcisms myself as the person doing the exorcism.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm not going to discuss it because it's not really remote viewing related.
No. I understand. No, and I understood. Yeah, it gets into an unusual topic, religion.
But you know, all that stuff is just as valid and clear and amazing. Even more, I would say, even more amazing than remote viewing. It's just that I can't quantify it as much with feedback. You know, I saw and had communications with all kinds of strange, weird shit and entities and non-humans and stuff. I can't verify any of it though. But it's an amazing experience. But yeah, as you open yourself up to more RV, you open yourself up more to the world around you. It's just your aperture is opening.
Yeah, it kind of stays open, and it's like, hey, listen, I don't want, you know, I just want.
Yeah, I'm lucky in the fact that I've been remote viewing for so many decades now that all my stuff before remote viewing was spontaneous, like you had. So I'd be like walking down the street and I'd see stuff, or I'd see stuff in the corner of the room. But because of remote viewing, my natural spontaneous stuff is atrophied to the state of where I may get one thing a year, whereas I was getting it every couple of days beforehand. So you do learn, to go down a different avenue the more you do with and controlling what you're doing as well.
There's something happening, that's for sure. We both agree on that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You just don't know what words to use kind of to describe it.
Yeah, right.
Make sense of it.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Paul, you've had your hand up for a very long time there. Sorry about that. Would you like to?
No, this is fascinating. I just want to make I had a new topic, but I wanted to make a comment about the Great Pyramid. In 78, the summer of 78, I and two other people had an apartment across the street from the Great Pyramid, just next to the Mina House, for several weeks. And I used to sit out on the porch and just look at the Great Pyramid for hours and hours and hours. And what I saw, and there were others that saw it too, was it shooting out of the top of the Great Pyramid for probably 200-300 foot high, would be endlessly changing colors, shooting up, sort of like smoke, sort of like spaghetti. It's hard to describe it. I didn't have
Wow.
an iPhone or camera back then, but it would just go on and on and on, endlessly changing this etheric energy that was pouring out of the top of the Great Pyramid. And I really think that there's a whole lot that goes on with the Great Pyramid that just people have never touched. I've never seen anything written about it. I've talked to a few scientists about it, and they wanted proof. And I mean, I know what I saw. Other people know what I saw. Another person told me that was with me, said that if you go to the light show to the Sphinx at night, you can get a real good view of the Giza Plateau in the dark.
Yeah.
And then when you do that, you can see that there are multiple other pyramids which are not materialized. They're etheric or whatever that is. And I did that. And there were at least 6, and there may be more, other pyramids, various sizes, various orientations. And the third thing I want to say, one time I walked up to the Great Pyramid, and there was this little Arab kid. He was probably 10 or 12, sitting on one of the blocks. And I see auras sometimes, and he had a black aura, pure black. It was like 10 foot in diameter, right up to his body. It was the most negative aura I've ever seen. And so, there's just a lot of really strange stuff that goes on with the Great Pyramid that goes beyond anything that's written. The other topic I wanted to bring up is I took a class with Paul Smith online several weeks back. Tamara Temple was there and some others on dowsing. And Paul tends to emphasize pendulums. And, that scalar type stuff is part of stage 6 of CRV. But Paul also got into the copper L rod things that you hold one in each hand. And I am finding that I am just really quite, quite a thing with L rods with me. Like I can be holding these things as still as I can, and I'll say, point to my parrot, and the things will just twist on their own and point to them. And I'll say, point to something else in the house, and the things will twist. And you can get yes, no answers. And we asked Paul, did Ingo ever get into that kind of thing with dowsing? And apparently he did not. But Paul said that, for example, if you're looking for bin Laden in Afghanistan, you're going to get an accurate story about the cave that he's in and what the cave looked like and how it was decorated and so forth. But if you want to know where it is, the guy's just going to say it's in the mountains, But with dowsing or a pendulum, you can actually take a map and locate it. So I just think that there's a whole, and you don't really need to do an RV session to be able to use the pendulum or the L rods. So
Hey, Paul, well, can you tell me where you got that asking for a friend?
I didn't get your question.
The L rods. Where did you get the L rods?
Oh, I got them on Amazon.
Yeah, you can buy them.
They're just standard copper L rods. They're called Spirit Hunter or something like that. They're only like $17 or $18 for a pair. So I just think that the
Not a gypsy princess or anything. You're thinking you're getting them from a gypsy princess, in Bulgaria or something, but no, Amazon. That's hilarious, Paul.
Well, they're made in China. They're made in everything's made in China.
You can just make them though out of coat hangers or anything.
Yeah, that's what Paul was teaching us, how to make them out of, just whatever you had handy. Yeah. In fact, he had a case where he was visiting some friends who had a huge storage area downstairs, and they had a box full of teddy bears, and there was like hundreds of boxes down there, and they couldn't find the box. And Paul went down there and he just put his arms out in front of him and turned his whole body and just used his body as the as a dowsing, and he found them in like in 3 minutes flat.
Yeah. You're kind of using your body as almost like dowsing rods for RV when you're doing RV on big sheets of paper or on whiteboards. Yeah, your whole body becomes the instrument for the signal. I will say on the dowsing thing though, I haven't had much success with dowsers. I worked a project for John Knowles probably about a decade ago, looking for a missing person, and he tasked myself and several other remote viewers working on it, and he also tasked some of the best dowsers in America at the time. And the project's online. You can actually download it from my blog and website and stuff, with the report with the dowsers information in there. But they absolutely bombed. They got terrible information, whereas us remote viewers nailed the location with sketches.
Wow.
So I think it's it is useful for some things, but it's like remote viewing. You have to get the right person with the right tool, I think. Joni, you've had your hand up for a while. Would you like to go next? Because we're running short of time here now. You're still muted at the moment.
Yes, now I'm unmuted. Daz,
Hi there.
awesome. Thank you. Oh, my mind is just sparking a million times in this last 2 hours. It's just been so wonderful. But I wanted to bring the trickster into the room. So here he is. This is Hermes. And in the chat, the name Mercury has come up. This is the walker between the worlds, the one who can fly to the heavens above and come down to the earth and also go down to the underworld, and is our faithful traveler with us. So I felt that Hermes Mercury needs to be brought into the room. And as I was looking at my bookshelf at the various books on tricksters that I seem to have, that I have not read, but they're there. So I know I absorb them. I coming back full circle to what Dawn had said at the beginning, how, and it was echoed later in talking about arrogance, like how we get upset when things don't go our way in a remote viewing session or ARV. We know we've nailed the target, but we've displaced and all of that. So, and I can say about that one of the greatest teachings that the trickster has for me is we are not in charge. The gods are in charge. Yep. GAWDS, the gods are in charge. And this is also echoed in many mystical traditions, of course. But so I could just blabber on and on. But I pulled down Trickster Makes the World by Lewis Hyde. This is a quintessential book on the trickster. And in the chat, I also mentioned my friend, George Hansen, wrote a book, another book I have not read, but I have it on my bookshelf, The Trickster and the Paranormal. And he's like 50% panned on Amazon, whatever, but he's such a great guy. He's such an intelligent person that you may find that book also helpful to understanding this trickster archetype, yeah, who is extremely complex. And
I'm really amazed. I didn't know there were books written on this subject.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Plenty of books on the trickster and movies too, like Joe versus the Volcano. Buster Keaton is the ultimate trickster in comedy, silent comedy. Trickster is a dynamo. Trickster makes things happen. Trickster makes the world. Trickster is a very important archetype in our consciousness. Trickster shows up to save the day. It's Hermes. It comes at the last minute to fly in and save the day in the quintessential sagas and hero's journey sagas. So anyway, I'm just kind of all over the map here because my head's all over the map. It really is. My head is like spinning, and I'd like it to be like a university lecture, but it can't be, But so I opened to a page, and this is also hoping to come full circle to what Dawn was talking about at the beginning, like how, and also that idea. It's not our we're always. I think remote viewing is also here to teach us that our egos get in the way, and I do spiritualize or sacramentalize or make this a sacred study. That's just my thing that I like to do. I see it in the realm of teaching and letting go. Having known, like the first time, I'll just give you a story. First time I did ARV, my team did not think I could remote view, right? So, this is in the early 2000s, okay? And this is a perfect trickster story. My team did not think I could remote view. They were not going to use any results or whatever that I got for a wager. So I had not taken any remote viewing teaching at that point. I just sort of did an ERV on the couch, and I had to do it for 3 different targets for each of the numbers that equated to each of the numbers. So, well, here I am writing, hey, here's my number. Can you think you can wager on this? And blah, blah, blah. And no, we already got our wages in, blah, 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 Well, guess what? First time remote viewing. I hadn't even met Marty Rosenblatt yet. And smack dab on, I got the number. That is trickster. That is trickster. So it wasn't actually in the session, but it was in the circumstances. The trickster does interact with us. So I wanted to share that. And I still love the people that I'm not in touch with them so much anymore, but I still love the people that didn't believe in me in the early days. And I've been away from the remote viewing community for several years. Long story. You don't want to know it now. Okay, so here was what I came to this paragraph, and I thought I'd just share this. It just popped out at me. Seizing and blocking opportunity, confusing polarity, disguising tracks. These are some of the marks of trickster's intelligence. The last of them leads to the final item on this initial list. If trickster can disguise his tracks, surely he can disguise himself. He can encrypt his own image, distort it, cover it up. In particular, tricksters are known for changing their skin. I mean this in 2 ways. Sometimes tricksters alter the appearance of their skin. Sometimes they actually replace one skin with another. That was the paragraph I opened to. For what it's worth, trickster came out. Hermes is with us in this work.
Very cool.
And we must pay homage to Hermes. Mercury, mercurial, changing. You know what Mercury looks like. That is, we are alchemists as well. So we when we treat these elements that come into this work as sacred, I think it can alter your whole experience. And you don't even need a THC gummy to do it, I mean, hey. So, but you can do that too if they're legal now, for the most part. Okay, so that's it. Last night I saw a movie about Timothy Leary and Ram Dass, so I'm on a certain wavelength, right?
Thanks, Joni. Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you, Daz. Sorry, I went over a little.
And that's a great thing to end this on, really, because we've gone over 2 hours on this. So thanks, everyone. But remember that the chat links are there as well, and it's got lots of great links to the books and everything in that. So I'll give you a couple seconds there. If you press the 3 dots there, you can actually save that chat for yourself with all those links as well. And I just want to thank you all for coming tonight. It's been a great chat, lots of great sharing, and really good insights from everyone. So thanks for that.
Really enjoyed it.
And hopefully we'll get together soon.
Don, you're gonna have the trickster tonight. You started this whole thing, brother.
All right, I'll be reporting it on the next chat,
Give
I
me a
guess.
call then. Take care, guys.
You have a good,
wonderful
great
week.
weekend, everyone.
All
You
right,
have a
take care,
wonderful
everybody.
week,
Take care.
Thanks.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Have a
That
good
was
weekend.
really great.
Bye
you
bye
guys.
now. Bye all.